This is episode 35 of the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast with our special guest, Kory Cook, coaching director at NC Fit. Welcome to the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast. My name is Jeff Thornton, alongside my co-host, Michael Anders. Each week, we bring you an inspiring person or message related to our three pillars of success: manifestation, business, fitness, and nutrition. Our intent is to enrich, educate, and empower our audience to take action, control, and accountability for their decisions. Thank you for allowing us to join you on your journey. Now let's get started. We would like to thank our sponsor, FitAid. If you're serious about your performance and recovery, go with FitAid. FitAid is the perfect pre- and post-workout supplement product. If you're dragging pre-workout, FitAid contains natural ingredients to give you that boost and pick-me-up you need without the jittery effect. And if you're looking for recovery after your workout, FitAid has branched-chain amino acids, or BCAAs, L-glutamine, L-arginine, vitamin C and D3, glucosamine, turmeric, CoQ10, and raw organic agave to accommodate the glycogen window and provide your body with a complete and clean recovery. Be sure to give them a try at lifeaidbevco.com, your local gym, or a grocery store near you.
Hey, what's good, fam? Welcome to episode 35 of the Feed Me, Fuel Me podcast. Durs and Jeff on the mic, and our special guest today, Kory Cook of NC Fit. What's good, brother?
What's happening, guys? Very happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining the show, man. Heard a lot of great things about you, bro.
Cool, great.
My dude from Cabo, your coaching career, even though you've been a lifelong coach of some sort, was kind of blossoming. I won't say that it was in its infancy, but was blossoming when my wife and I were down in Cabo on a short vacay away from the desert. And, one of our rituals is to, before we do nothing all day on vacation, we got to get up and train. And NorCal Fit Cabo was about a mile from the hotel, so we'd get up every morning and saunter on down there, kind of wake up, stretch the legs and everything. And we bumped into you at the tail end of one of your classes because we were doing open gym stuff. And, we threw down a couple of times while we were down there for the week, and just really, really hit it off. And you have a truly interesting story in terms of your progression, because you are one of the disciples of Jason Khalipa, the 2008 CrossFit Games champion, and from not only an athletic standpoint, but from a business standpoint, has put himself on quite the pedestal in terms of the progression of being an independent business owner and a thought leader in not only the CrossFit space, but the independently owned gym space as well. So to have somebody like that as a mentor can only force you to up your game and be that much better than you would have ever been on your own, trying to figure it out by yourself.
Oh, definitely, man. And Jason is the big main idea behind what we do. But I mean, sure, he's the forefront of our company, but there's a lot of people on the back end doing a lot of the little things that you don't even see. There's a lot of administrators, there's a lot of back end. We have media guys, we have designers, we have smaller entities based off what we do. So I mean, yeah, you see NC Fit, NorCal CrossFit, what it used to be. And Jason does lead the way and kind of lead the charge and is the face of what we do. But there's a lot of things and a lot of smaller people on the backside that really run the day in and day out stuff that just follows the projection and the vision of what Jason and Matt, our CFO, really lead for us.
Exactly. So for everybody that doesn't know who you are or where you fit in that NorCal Fit puzzle, why don't you put some meat on the bone for our listeners? What's your background? How did you end up where you're at? Kind of give us the cliff notes of your progression from college lacrosse to where you're at now.
Yeah, definitely, man. So I started out coaching little kids in lacrosse, and at that time it was just a passion of mine. Then seeing where that kind of directed me into things, I myself got way into lacrosse, started training super hard, ended up getting recruited to play for a very small kind of no-name D2 school out in Colorado. Had an awesome opportunity to go do that. And in doing that, I found that I was an athlete that fit within what my team was doing. Specifically, I wasn't so much a great lacrosse player. I just had a really good work ethic. I worked hard, and I loved training and being part of the team aspect. And so, once I finished school, I left and I came back home, and I was kind of like, pretty much what you would run into with a lot of competitive and a lot of college athletes, to where, you wake up at 6, you go to weights, you come back, you eat breakfast, then you go to class for the middle of the day, then you go back home, you kind of rest up for practice, so that kind of regiment and kind of having that expectation of that output day in and day out really fueled my life. And coming back from school, I jumped into a construction business with a buddy, and at the end of the day, I was finding myself being very irritated if I wasn't able to go and train after work. So I was taking, the regular CrossFit classes. A normal gym will run a 4:30, a 5:30, and a 6:30. Well, let's say that a project we were on working specifically had to run over, and I couldn't make it to class. Me personally, on the inside, I would be a wreck the whole night because I didn't get a chance to train. And so, one day I was kind of beating myself up working construction, and I was like, dude, why am I not coaching? Like, why am I not in the gym every day? That's why I want to be there. And it's funny because I got into coaching thinking that it would help me train. And I got into coaching thinking I could train harder, I could be at the gym more. And what I really took away from that was finding that I love working with people. I love taking CrossFit, something that they see that, the Open's coming out today. We got the 17.1 announcement. People look at Jason Khalipa. People look at Pat Barber. People look at Rich Froning. They look at these huge, major competitive athletes, and they go, well, I can't do that. To where, as a coach, it is your job to be that forefront and that person to introduce this fitness lifestyle, this fitness regimen, this crazy idea of CrossFit, and be that forefront to really show that, hey, it's for everybody. Just because you can't snatch 225 doesn't mean you can't come in and get a great workout. So, I think at the end of the day, I got into it thinking that, sure, I'm gonna compete, I'm gonna be competitive, I'm gonna work out 3 hours a day. And I really realized once I was rooted in doing that that's not what it's all about. It's all about the guy who works 9 to 5 and the fact that he can come in and escape his day for an hour. I want that hour to be the best hour out of his day. I want him to leave and say, Kory, I'm taking your class tomorrow, because I want him to leave and be like, wow, it was informative, it was fun, I escaped my day for an hour, and I got a great workout in. So kind of trickling back to what you mentioned there, Durs. So essentially what really got me into it was originally being competitive and working out and kind of filling that void as a NCAA athlete that I just didn't have anymore. And, going through the progression of, starting your internship program as a coach, to having the owner of my gym at the time overseeing my classes, and then all of a sudden here I am coaching. It's really awesome to be a part of this, and I would have never guessed it would have grown to where it is today. So, kind of coming back full circle to the way it worked out, I got my level 1 in 2014, actually at NorCal CrossFit. Pat Barber was actually on my seminar staff, and now I work with him weekly as a coaching director. So that's kind of cool how that all works out. So in 2014, I started coaching at Ross Valley CrossFit, a smaller mom and pop gym. It was an awesome experience because being that small of a gym, you are very intimate with those members. They saw me start there as an athlete. They saw me go through the internship program and kind of blossom into, getting back to what I was explaining, really finding what it means to be a great coach is to just really want to work with people and just develop that connection with people. So I ended up being there for probably about a year and a half. And so after working there for about a year and a half, I was already managing. I was already stocking our Progenics. I already had 10 private clients. I was coaching 20 hours a week, and it was awesome. But at the end of the day, I was kind of like beating myself up, and I'm like, well, where's the real future in this? And I think a lot of coaches do go through that, to where they get into something, they love it, they have a great time, and then they kind of get tapped out because the majority of these affiliates are smaller, mom and pop owned. They can only pay you so much based off their membership base and based off of retail sales. And at the end of the day, those mom and pop gyms, are, making it by offering a great product. And so I actually was very lucky and very fortunate that my original owner was very meticulous as the way he ran the business. So when I saw a social media post for NorCal, it was on Instagram, and I kind of screenshotted it, kind of put it on the back burner, because me personally, when that came out, I was like, I love my connection with my members at my current spot, but I was like kind of starting to look at the bigger picture of, where am I going to be here in 2 or 3 years? Do I see myself running an affiliate? I kind of was already doing that. And it was kind of like this kind of back and forth, because originally I got in because I wanted to be competitive. And now I'm really seeing that interacting with our members and working with people was something I was very passionate about. And, and I think I was probably about 24, 25 years old at the time, trying to figure out my direction going forward, and saw that Instagram post. To me personally, I don't know why at the time, I was like, I've only been coaching for a year and a half. NorCal's so major. They were NorCal CrossFit at the time. They were actually going to the games in 2015. That was right around that time. And, in my head, I'm like, man, they're so competitive. Why would they want me? And then, so I ended up having a phone interview. So I emailed in, had a phone interview with Pat. And Pat actually kind of laid it out in a light of, hey, you're here to coach. And if you're not here to coach, we don't want anything to do with you. And to be completely honest, we joke about it now. I've said to him, I said, hey, Pat, like that initial phone conversation, you didn't really make it sound pretty awesome to be there. And he kind of laughs about it. And he goes, dude, you got to understand, at that time, we would send out a social media post and we would get 200 responses. So just kind of digest that for a minute. How do you, as Pat's position, the head coach, and was involved with hiring coaches and coaches development at the time, he was doing that across four facilities by himself. Ooh. So just imagine what that interview process had to look like. So the initial conversation was about an hour, and like I said, we can joke about it now, but I told him, I said, hey man, you didn't really make that sound very awesome and very fun to be there. And so he was like, yeah, man, we kind of gotta sift through the BS, is his no BS way of answering questions. And so, we got past that phone interview. I taught a class. It was the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done in my entire life. I had to teach a class of 30 people who I've never seen move before. I've only been coaching a year and a half. And, at the end of the day, this could be my projection for me going forward in my future. So I taught the class, had to sit down with Pat, and he kind of just straight up was like, hey, how do you think you did? And I told him, I said, man, that was nerve-wracking. I had a blast doing it. It really put me on the spot. And I think those kind of situations really highlight the kind of individual you are. I was thrown in the fire, like day one. He goes, yep, you're a coach. Let's see if you can coach. And we sat down, had a conversation. Of course, Pat being the caliber and the level of coach that he is, been on seminar staff. The guy's been an OG and been in the game since like 2008. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's even before that, when he got brought on and he was going through he was filming the seminars at the time, and then all of a sudden really got involved with it. So there's a lot of experience and a lot of core values and that kind of hardcore CrossFit, at the time. And so, sat down, had the interview. He definitely had feedback for me to work on, and then so what I did is I went home that next week and implemented every single thing he told me to fix, so it became second nature. Mm-hmm. And so I came back, taught the second class, and it was really funny because he was shadowing. We finished the class, the gym, the morning kind of block of classes was closing up. It was opening up to a open gym time, and he just goes, hey, how'd you do? And I said, well, these were the 4 things you wanted me to fix, and I fixed them. And he goes, yeah, you totally did that. So you're going to go on to the next step. And I was like, whoa, like just like that? Like, no, you don't want me to fix this. You want me to do that? He goes, no, you have my blessing. You'll hear from us for the next step. And so that was awesome to hear. And then it ended up working out that I had to sit down with our CFO and Khalifa. They asked characteristic questions. They asked, what's a normal day look like for me as a manager of my affiliate? And kind of just went from there. A lot of personality questions. And then sooner after than that, we had some kind of back and forth afterwards. And then I got brought onto our corporate side. So at the time, NorCal CrossFit, now we are NC Fit. I'll get into the reasoning behind that here and later in the show. The reasoning behind they sent me over to the corporate side is it's such a cool niche over there. And essentially what they wanted me to do was to kind of develop into this mold of what they offer at and what their brand of NorCal CrossFit was at the time. And they wanted me to develop into that at our corporate structure. And what's awesome about that is you can look at commercial gyms, you can look at opportunities with corporate sides, you can look at opportunities within private training. And I think what is the coolest thing that we do at NC Fit, and at the time was NorCal CrossFit, was that corporate side. And in doing that, there's so many positives that come out of those classes and being on that corporate entity of what we do. So biggest thing that I saw was team camaraderie across the board. So if you implement this program, which they did, it was HGST at the time. I think there's been some buyouts. They're now Western Digital. And at the time, I got brought on, and this was just so open to me, going from this small mom and pop gym to where I think the biggest class I taught was maybe in the 20s to now all of a sudden I'm at this corporate site with classes in the 20 plus, and so that was kind of cool being a part of that bigger structure. However, I did have to adjust my coaching a little bit, and it was a really cool kind of culture that we were dealing with. Me personally, being from where I had been growing up, I hadn't really seen multiple kind of personalities, multiple kind of cultures mixed into one. So going over to this corporate side, we had people who are Indian descent, we have people who are Asian descent, we have people who are white. I mean, and I'm not trying to get to, whatever kind of political aspect of what it was. It's just getting down to it, connecting with people. And so in this corporate structure, you would have people who would pass each other in the halls every day and not even say hi, not even raise a hand, to all of a sudden now they're taking 11:30 class together, hanging out for 30 minutes afterwards, conversing about the projects they have going on, conversing about what they're going to do on the weekend while they're sitting on a foam roller and mobilizing. So really building that corporate structure and really building that team camaraderie within that facility. I believe Western Digital has worldwide thousands of employees. Mm-hmm. So you could imagine what the difference in kind of cohesively bring a company together, how difficult that could be. And that organically happened by offering this CrossFit program across the board to all their sites. I mean, I think there's affiliates in Singapore, Thailand, Japan, Hong Kong, Philippines. I know there's one in Rochester. I believe they opened one up in Irvine, and that's just one single corporate entity that we work with. We also work with GoPro. We also are now getting into the Bay Club, which the Bay Club is a major fitness facility that is on the higher end, offering amenities of, steam rooms, saunas. They offer racquetball. They have spin. They have yoga, Pilates. So, it's really cool to bring what we do specifically and so special about NC Fit to all these different kind of entities. And so, I got brought on the corporate side, and I really saw how awesome and how much that can build within a team just by offering fitness classes. And what's really cool about that is, there's a specific coaching staff that only works on that corporate side. So every day, the coaches cycle through the days of, morning block, middle block, and an evening block. But the same people are going to have their same breaks and take the same classes, and they get more involved with people who probably work within their same department of the company, but maybe they don't. But that's going to build cohesion, and that's going to build, an awesome culture within that company. So, I got in over there. It was a really eye-opening experience. It was incredible, working with these different cultures, teaching these bigger classes, being a part of a bigger picture, which is NC Fit now. And so pretty funny, there's, talking about Cabo. So I'd only been working with NorCal CrossFit for about 5 weeks. And in those 5 weeks, I was just busting ass, doing what I know personally how to do. And I had a phone conversation. This happened on a Wednesday night. This is how fast this happened. This happened on a Wednesday night. Jason hit me up personally, and he goes, "Hey, Kory, we're hearing good things about you. We just took over this existing affiliate down in Cabo San Lucas. I know the owner personally. For, the last 6 months or the last year he's been open, it has just been a nightmare for him. He personally runs a culinary department at a major resort, and he opened up this fitness facility because he loves CrossFit and he wanted to bring it to his people down here in Cabo. And And so Jason was just mentioning how the coaches show up 30 minutes late. They don't offer a proper warm up, right? Yeah,
Oh
they
my
don't
God.
they don't offer a proper warm up. The pretty much the scope of what they train is if you're not maxing out, you're not doing it right. And they were just really missing the bigger picture of community, of connecting with members, of bringing this awesome fitness regime, fitness program to people in that country. So, I had about a 30-minute phone conversation with Jason, which was probably one of the most serious conversations I've ever had in my life. And at the end, he goes, "Hey, man, I think you're the man for our job, and I want to send you down there for it could be a possibility of a couple months. Is that something you would want to do?" And it was funny because I had just gotten settled in to my house here down in the South Bay, and I just got figured out my routes of getting to and from work and going around traffic, and I got kind of settled in. So I got to be completely honest, there was probably about 20% of me that didn't want to go. I mean, of course, there's plenty that wanted me to go down there. And so by the end of the conversation, I was like, "Yeah, Jason, I'm your man. I'll go down there. I'll kick ass." And he goes, "Good, because you leave Saturday at 9 a.m.
Wow.
Woo!
So that was an incredible turnaround to go do that. And, flew down Saturday morning. And, when I got down there, man, we had 30 members. We had plates, only men's bars, a couple trainer bars, a rig, and some super heavy kettlebells. And so, I had to run a programming that was, it was a very inclusive, broad, general program from NorCal to a community of people who haven't had a complete on-ramp, who haven't been instructed form, and I was kind of going back and forth for me mentally as a coach because the workout would get released and, let's say it was heavy power clean and jerk and handstand push-ups. Well, I got to be honest, I have 15 to 20 people in class who can't even clean and jerk. So me being a coach and making sure that these people can leave saying, "Hey, I worked on something. Hey, I got better personally today." I would have to sit them down at the brief and be like, "Hey guys, this is what we're working on today. I know on the website it said we were clean and jerking and handstand push-ups, but where we are as a community, we need to develop these skills before we get into these more advanced movements." So kind of getting back to Cabo, I know it's a little long-winded for me getting down there. But yeah, there's just like you said, you would pop in and I caught you kind of on the tail end of, an open gym time. And I'm sitting here and it's like in November and it's like 95 degrees out. And here Durs comes in and throws down for like 3 hours by himself. Started with the back squat, then he moved into like Tabata body weight, then he finished with assault bike intervals. And, being me as a coach, I'm over here like foam rolling, ready to start front squatting or something. And I'm like, who is this guy? And so it was really cool to see, you down there, Durs. And I think your wife was pregnant at the time with your son.
Yeah, sure was.
Yeah. And so she would come in and be like, "All right, honey, like I get it. We can go and hang out by the pool now." And then so, that just really resonated me with you, Durs, just seeing, here you are on vacation and you took training very serious at the time. And so, I was like, "Hey, I got to work out with this dude." So we jumped in, I think we remember we just kind of threw something together and like had a good time with it. And I was like, "Hey bro, let's go grab some breakfast." And, sitting down, you kind of told me your background and I told you my background and kind of where we came from. And I think at the end of the day, we really saw a presence in each other. And we saw something of coming from a kind of a hard growing up, a hard area and applying it and turning it into something positive. And I think that translated so well to what I was doing in Cabo, because when I got down there, the membership base I was working with, they're like, "Wow, like you're teaching us, flexibility. Wow, you have ideas of why my elbow hurts when I snatch." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, like this is a top level product that should be offered across the board." And so, when I got down there in Mexico, it was changing a culture. Like we would have people who would show up 10 and 15 minutes late to class and want to jump in to where like I had to be like, "Nope, you can't do that. You got to wait till 4:30. And at first, we got a lot of pushback and changing this culture. And then, like I would say, "No, you got to wait till 4:30. Go about teaching my class and get to a point where I could take the time and go reach out to that athlete who wanted to come in and work out and be like, 'Hey man, this is for your safety.'" Things that might have been ran differently before we got down here, but moving forward, this is going to be our policy. And I tell you what, a couple minutes late, I get it. Jump on into class, let's do it. But if you consistently show up 10 and 15 minutes late, you're missing out on the brief, you're missing out on the stimulus, you're missing out on the scales for what that workout's going to be for the day. And so it was just changing a culture down there. And it was just so cool to kind of have you come down there, Durs, and kind of highlight very good morals and standards that you lived on. And at the time for me, I was pretty young, right? I think it was the last 2 years ago, right? So I was about 26, 27 years old, and just kind of hearing your perspective on it really solidified what I was doing out there and added a lot of value to what I was doing out there. So I was down there for about 5 months. When I got down there, we had 36 members. And when I left in the 5 months, we were up to 248.
Ooh, that's what's up,
that's
man.
Cool.
I mean, that just lets us know that, you were the right man for the job.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the things that stuck out to me, upon meeting you and watching you coach. I know when I drop into affiliates, I'm silently judgmental. I'm very, very critical of the coaching environment. And some of the things that you bring to the table were, like you said, emphasis on mobility and form and technique above speed and load. And you run a very tight ship. You start on time, you end on time, you respect others' time, and you also expect your members to be respectful of each other's time, and changing the culture and making sure that everything starts and ends when it's supposed to. And that, to me, those are some of the tenets that make a successful box, that make a respectable box, and make you effective and respectable as a coach. And, knowing of Jason Khalipa, there's no way that you could be down there and not be worth your salt. You know what I mean? You for as little experience, once we got to talking and stuff like that, how young you were in the game, to have such a mature style, really, really stuck out to me, and lets me know that your progression to Cabo, fast as it may have been, is all the reason why you are where you are now.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. So what are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned along the way, now that you've experienced the differences between the affiliate culture and the corporate culture?
Yeah, totally. So getting back to, I'm going to actually go back to what you were saying as far as starting on time, ending on time, offering this product, and kind of a mature way to run class. So what I do now is I'm a coaching director, right? And what we do is there's a couple of things. A, we're in charge of the hiring process, hiring new coaches, doing mock classes to make sure that, hey, they know what they're talking about. But at the end of the day, it comes down to two things. And this is something that we discuss in our meetings. There's two types of authority. There's a positional authority and there's a personal authority. So if you look at Durs in your background, right, you were in the forces. Thank you very much for everything you did. I really appreciate that.
I appreciate the support, man.
And so you have a lieutenant, or you have somebody who is above you. That is a positional authority, to where if you don't show up on time for drill, you're going to hear it. Right. So there's people in power because of their position. There's also people in power because of their personal authority, and that is being there 10 minutes early. That is saying, hey, Durs, what's up, man? How you doing? Welcome to class. How's your weekend? And just connecting with people and building that rapport. And so we talk about this a lot in our coaching director meetings, and it's funny because, you kind of touched on technical aspects and mobility and modalities of training and, load versus intensity and mechanics and things like that. When at the end of the day, if you can connect with those clients and people personally, as opposed to you're going to squat 225 because I said that, or if you go, hey, you just hit 185 for 5 and it looked like you were texting your best friend. Why don't we go to 225 and tell me how that was then? So, just kind of approaching those situations from a personal level, as opposed to you should do this because I'm in my position and I say so. Sure, there are some coaches that kind of thrive on that. Sure, there are some cultures within facilities that do thrive on that as well. But I think at the end of the day, what made Cabo so special, and this kind of segues into corporate and commercial, what makes that so special is the coach who can connect to your members personally. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because when I came in and did my first mock class or my first class with Pat, dude, I was so technical. I was talking about external and internal rotation. I was talking about activation of the psoas. I was talking about staying tight. I was talking about midline stability. And Pat comes up to me and goes, "What the hell was that?" And I was like, "Well, like that's what it is." He goes, "You know that. I know that." And he points across the room and he goes, "Do you think they know that?" And I was just like, "Oh, wow." And he goes, "External, internal." He goes, "Can you tell me how to externally rotate my arm without making it complicated?" And it took me a couple of minutes, and I'm like, and I kind of just go, pit of the elbow up, and he goes, "That's all you need to do." And so when it comes down to it, if you can have a coach that is technically sound, but gets people to move well because they built that connection, they built that trust, they have that personal authority within that class to command that class, then that turns into being the best hour out of their day. That turns into them wanting to go harder for you and listening when they go, they'll make a jump. And I see this all the time in class, deadlift day. Everybody loves deadlifting heavy, right? And they'll make jumps that I don't even make. And there's been plenty of times where I've walked over to them, stood on the bar and been like, "Hey, if you go for this, you're probably not going to work out for a couple of weeks." And at first, like in Mexico specifically, culturally, I had a really tough time and a lot of backlash of that. And it took a couple of months to where, I would have to kind of like brush it off as them being like, okay, but I wouldn't budge. I would literally stand on the bar until they would take weight off. And it was tough to kind of change a culture like that and, culture within that affiliate. But at the end of the day, if you have that personal connection and you have that personal authority, that's what's going to make it successful. And how does that translate over to the corporate and the commercial side? Well, commercial side, I'm going to be honest. They pay $200 to $250 a month for our all access membership plan. Mm-hmm. So that's I've seen more expensive membership options and I've seen cheaper membership options. So generally we're right in the middle, but I can wholeheartedly say it's worth it because I know the product we offer based off of other classes that I've taken. Like you were saying, Durs, you hop into class and you look around like, I can't believe you guys pay money to be here, right? And at the end of the day, it's really comes down to that coach and that coach making that personal connection. You can have the best coach in the world, right? You can have somebody who was a gold medalist in weightlifting and you're like, yeah, this guy is awesome. He knows what he's talking about. I'm going to bring him in and coach a class. Well, what if he comes in and he goes, well, you can't snatch 225, so you're wasting your time. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you can bring in any expert, but if they can't connect and get people to move well and they can't talk about what their expertise is in a light that's going to highlight and make people want to replicate that, what is that going to get you at the end of the day? Here you are out as a business owner spending money on this personalized, specialized coach to come in and teach your weightlifting. But if he can't teach, what is that value for members? And what is that value for you at the end of the day?
Right. And it's so interesting that you bring that up because when our coaches are coming up through our internship program, one of the things that I harp on the most is your effectiveness as a coach isn't the $5,000 words that you learned in school. Your effectiveness as a coach is the ability to explain one thing 17 different ways because of all the different kinds of learners that are in one room at the same time. Some people have to see it. Some people have to feel it. Some people just need to hear it, right?
Totally.
To improve movement, to make some improvement in a given movement. And when you're using the $5,000 words habitually to establish your credibility, you're actually losing credibility because your audience is no longer in tune with you because they don't understand. And more importantly, they probably don't fucking care. You know what I mean? And something that I learned very early on in my career was all those $5,000 words. There's a certain personality type, and they are the extreme minority, the ultra analytical people Yeah, I'd venture to say they're probably 10 to 12% of all the people you'll ever train that actually care to know that you know those words.
Totally. And that kind of comes down to coaching, just being a good coach, right? I mean, just because one cue fixed somebody's knees out with this certain individual doesn't mean that same cue and that same verbiage is going to work with the next. And so being a coach, you have to be okay with, okay, that didn't work. What is my arsenal of what I can do to make people move better? And I mean, and it's funny because in my coach's development, I work with 2 coaches personally right now. I'm going to expand to another location here pretty soon, and I'm probably going to have about another 5 or 6 under my belt. And it really comes down to that hierarchy of movement, right? So, and it really comes down to who are you working with, right? So if I have somebody who comes into my class, they're an ex-athlete, you see the way they move, they're following along, they're moving very well. You can push that athlete very differently than I would push somebody who's my mom's age, who's 63. And being a very good coach is being able to delegate and know that maybe because this cue didn't work with the athlete who was the ex-college player, just because it doesn't work for the 63-year-old mom doesn't mean that it was wrong. It doesn't mean that, you can't use that ever again. You just got to be very flexible with the way that you coach, right? And, if I work with somebody who they're having trouble pushing their knees out on a squat, I can't sit there and say, push your knees out, push your knees out, push your knees out. Because at the end of the day, if that's the mom that just wants to escape their kids for an hour, they're going to hate that class. To where it kind of sucks as a coach for me personally, because I want everybody to move perfectly.
Right.
But, man, there's so many underlying things. Mobility, or maybe they didn't sleep. Maybe they just had a kid like you, Durs, and they're up 4 hours every night and they just want to come in and work out. So it really comes down to the coach being able to socially see the athlete he specifically work with and go off those cues and go off of what that athlete specifically wants to get out of the class.
Right. And it happens so often that, that dynamic is present in a class, push your knees out, push your knees out, push your knees out, push your knees out, and nothing is happening, and all you're doing is building frustration in the member and client because they can't do what you're asking them to do.
Totally.
And you're fostering potential resentment from client to coach because they're like, everything about their body is telling you that they don't get it, and you're not making a deliberate attempt to explain it any different. And at some point, it's vital that you look at the big picture, and maybe that's not necessarily what needs to be fixed right then in that moment in that class. That's something that you can leave alone and let them have that partial squat. And just let them know, as we move forward from one class to the next, I really want you to challenge yourself by stretching deeper into your squat. And, these are the things that I want you to, focus on as you perform whatever movement, and kind of give them some things to walk away from class with, because fitness is a journey, and nobody, I don't, whether you're the NCAA athlete or the 63-year-old mom, everybody has something to improve on. And
totally.
It's your job to not only challenge them physically within the confines of the hour that they're at your gym, but more importantly, kind of give them some things to think about for the next time, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And that's something that I see go missing all the time is there isn't that I think the word that you use is very accurate, the intimacy from coach to client, where you're reaching out and you're touching someone and you're saying, this is what I want you to work on. Too often coaches in this environment just stand back and give all this blanket instruction that doesn't necessarily apply to every single person in that class.
Yeah, and then it's like in new coaches, that can be very detrimental to where they'll just say, okay, for the squat, we're all going to push our knees out. And then they stand in front of the class and say, now give me 10 squats. As a coach, you should be working your way through the crowd, giving specific instructions for that person, right? And so, in now me working with my coaches, I say, how do you take the people who move very well and make them move better? How do you take the people who move like dog shit and make them move better? But how can you do that in a structure, in a class, to where there's no downtime, to where you build your rapport and that personalized attention with your athletes and your individuals. And just like you said, Durs, like in class, it's our job to be there and get them to move better. So let's say I'm working with a 63-year-old, hips are tighter than hell. She sits at a desk her whole life. And I'm like, okay, if we can't get down and that's all you got for today, make sure you hit that every time. But moving forward, just like you said, I want you to try to get deeper. And at the end of the class, I'm going to take 2 or 3 minutes and say, hey, I know I was on your ass. Here's how I can help you get better. Here's what you can do specifically to get better. And that's exactly what you said. And that will build your personalized authority with every single one of your clients. Just the fact that you took 2 minutes after class to take that time with that individual. And so when I go through my new hiring of coaches, that's what I look for the most. Mm-hmm. The knowledge base and the technical aspect, that can be learned. But do they have the social intelligence to see, hey, I'm giving this cue of knees out, knees out, knees out, knees out, knees out. Am I seeing in this individual the demeanor of their attitude now? Are they resenting me? Are they hating this class? To where as a great coach would go, hey, knees out. Okay, here, now watch me push my knees out. Okay, that doesn't work. Then you go into your tactile cueing. Put your hand right outside their knee and say, hey, when you squat, I want you to physically push your hand into my knee the whole time. That didn't work. My last ditch effort, I would go get a band, hook it up to the rig, have them stand in it around their knees and go, hey, you're going to push this band out and squat as deep as you can every time. So, and I know that specifically because I've done it. I've been wrong in those situations. I've grown from those situations. I've reached out to other coaches and said, hey, what do you do here? And, it's a learning process for you too as a coach because, as I saw this in an article that Pat released like a little while ago, he was talking about working with a brand new athlete who could not hold a neutral spine or a flat back in a deadlift. And no matter what he did, every cue, every verbal, every visual, every tactile, everything just wasn't working to the point of, he said, okay, round the shit out of your back. And then all of a sudden, so at the end of the day as a coach, sure, I'm not going to go to an athlete and say, hey, round your back. I want you to look like a turtle, right? No, but specifically in that instance and with that athlete, even though it probably wasn't the right thing to say, you got a positive aspect or a positive movement pattern out of that. So it's kind of cool that coaching, you have to be so flexible, and it really kind of comes down to your positional authority, or your personal authority. What kind of rapport and relationship have you built with a coach? And, what I love most of all is running our prep course. Because the people walk into our facility and they see 430 class going on of like women dropping 135-pound barbells on the ground. They hear that hit the ground and they're already looking over like, whoa, what is this? And, they kind of see me and I'm it's funny because as a CrossFit athlete, I'm not very big. They look at me and go, dude, you're massive. I'm like, you should see some of these other guys. And so right then and there, they're already intimidated by the culture that we have. They're already intimidated about me walking right up to them and being like, hey, how are you doing? And, to kind of pull them aside and teach them and be that segue in that prep course and be that initial introduction into what we do and our product as NC Fit now is just awesome. And I found is just what really keeps me coming back every day, and just to be so excited here to take something that can be so intimidating and turn it around and have it be fun, and have people who have never lifted a weight before in their life being like, hey, what's strength class all about? Am I going to get stronger doing that? And they kind of, you kind of want to give them a little bit at each time so they can digest and get better and move on from it, to where, I'm not going to have somebody in their 40s who works at a desk all day and be like, hey, this is a squat snatch. Let's get as heavy as we can at squat snatch. Mm-hmm. For our prep course, we're like, hey, we're going to teach you how to overhead squat. We're going to teach you how to power snatch. But at the end of the day, if you leave this course knowing where your scaling options are and knowing where you are as an individual, that's going to help your coach, and that's going to help you when you get out into class.
Interesting. And as you've continued to evolve, I found an interesting piece where you said when you wanted to learn something, you made sure to call coaches and learn some different tips and things like that. As you've grown as a coach and now you're coaching other people, how instrumental has it been for you to surround yourself with the right people and learn from them and also implement what they've taught you?
Oh, man. Major. And, it's easy for me to say that because I have these resources at my disposal, right? I can literally pick up my phone, call up Pat or Jason, and to be honest, there's very, very high quality coaches that I work with as well, who I have even reached out to. And I love taking other coaches' classes because, and just like Durs was kind of explaining earlier, you'll drop in an affiliate on vacation and you're in there and you're like, dude, how do you pay for this class? Or you'll be like, wow, they taught that very differently, but they got everybody to move well. So you can kind of take those little things that you really like and implement them, right? But what's really cool about what we do as CrossFit coaches is social media, right? You can DM and you can hit up and reach out. I've known people personally who've reached out to the Marcus Phillies, who have reached out to the Pat Barbers, who have reached out to the Kalipas, who have reached out to maybe some of those higher level female athletes and said, hey, how did you get here? And, that's what's really awesome about our community and being connected in what we do is CrossFit. And I think, with the Ben Bergerons and, all of these kind of top level coaches starting to kind of surface, there is a lot of information out there. And it's funny because there's awesome information that is very applicable to what we do every day, but there's also information that you read and go, well, with a grain of salt, that would definitely work within the parameters of what we do. So for people who would want to kind of gain this knowledge base, CrossFit releases all of their information, the level 1 handbook, all that stuff's all online. So if you find somebody who's really motivated to learn, at the end of the day, they'll go and do that. But like you were saying, though, I'm in a very lucky position that's kind of at my disposal, right? I can reach out personally and hear back from them pretty soon. So, if I were to give any advice for a new coach trying to better themselves, get out, go take classes at other gyms and facilities who you've known those coaches to be there a long time, right? Because you'll see how they connect with their members. You'll see how they run the warm-up. You'll see their presence in class. You'll see the way that, they concluded and worked with members. And, that would be my biggest thing is just get out there, just see what other people are doing and see if that works for you. At the end of the day, you'll see something great. And maybe you might see something that you're like, whoa, I am never teaching it that way. And so at the end of the day, you're getting better just by taking other classes and just kind of being in that situation. So I think that's one of the probably kind of missed opportunities to gain knowledge.
That's
and kind of have fun doing it, right?
Right. And what's so interesting about your story, I think more over luck, is that you took action on everything. So from taking action to go to take that social media post from NorCal, putting yourself in the position, and then learning the material that Pat gave you that day and implementing it and coming back that next class and, just taking his path and saying, this guy's already done it. He knows what he's talking about, and being humble in that journey, that puts you where you are today because everything that you've done, you've taken massive action towards, man. I think that's incredible because a lot of people sit back and think hey, I want to be the best coach, but they don't even digest the knowledge or take the information that's given to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so I think that's incredible that you've done that, man. And
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really impressive.
And actually, to expand on that, the reasoning why I can wholeheartedly say the reason why I did that was I was working construction, man, and it made me good money. It really did. But, man, my alarm went off at 6 a.m. Do you know how long it took me to get out of bed? 30 minutes. Because I, for lack of a better term, fucking hated what I was doing. I fucking hated it. And I tell you what, man, you find something that you do not like, how long are you really going to put up with it before you turn around and say, dude, I got to make a change? And that is a personality type. And I think Durs and I really vibe on this. We kind of grew up in a way where we kind of had to pave the path for ourselves, right? And I'm not saying that I am not happy I did that, and I'm not saying I didn't come out a better person because of that. That was just my personal journey, and that was a time for me to mature and grow as a kind of a young adult. And I had the confidence in myself to know that, holy crap, I'm living at home with my mom. I'm sharing rent with her. I work construction with a buddy. Where am I going from here? And I told you, man, I hated that job. Made good money, but it was so awful for me to wake up every day and go to work. And so literally I was digging ditches one day and I was stabbing the shovel into the ditch to get a rock out, and it snapped back and hit me in the face and broke my nose. I literally freaked out and threw the shovel like 100 yards. I mean, like 40 yards, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I go, you know what, man? I go, this is not what I need to be doing. And I had the confidence in myself because I had that path, laid out for me because I had to walk it myself. And just taking action and just realizing where I was at that time, and it wasn't where I wanted to be, that I would have done anything at that point to figure it out. And I just happened to luck out that I just one day had this epiphany of, I got to be in the gym and I got to be coaching. And I really appreciate that, man. And that was really cool to hear. And, I just kind of followed what I was passionate about. And, I didn't get into coaching because I wanted to be a millionaire. I think all coaches can say that. They get into coaches because either they love the fitness aspect, they love the community, or they love working with people. And that was awesome.
So here's a question for you. Where does your coachability come from? Your ability to be coached. There's so many people that have your spirit and your drive and your work ethic, and they make this conscious / subconscious decision to almost self-sabotage because they want to do it their way, and almost convince themselves that taking that hard road is taking the path of most resistance is what's going to make them the most effective coach possible. And you can apply that to any industry. They just they make a conscious decision to make it hard for themselves, where you've intentionally put yourself in a position to be mentored, taken action on the constructive criticism that you've been given, and become better that way, which, as challenging as it may be to implement those pieces and step up your game, is a lot less challenging than trying to figure it out on your own despite the instruction that you've been given.
Yeah, man, definitely. I know exactly what you're saying. And it's funny because for me personally, I've been involved with team sports, man, ever since I can remember at 6 years old. And, I can remember the coaches that I loved playing for. Why? Because they're personal authority within our team. And for me personally, it's kind of funny because I approach this as this is what I've done my whole life. I've played for coaches who have been awesome. And I tell you what, I played so hard for those coaches. And I had coaches who showed up and they were late and they would tell us, I give up my time to be here. And that's not a coach you want to play for. So me personally, kind of segueing that into what I do now, every team I was a part of, I was voted team captain by my peers. And the reason of that was my work ethic. The reason of that was my dedication to what I was doing. And it was the light of the dedication of, hey, I'm doing this, you should do this too, or if you don't do this, you suck. It was me trying to be the best teammate I could be moving forward. And on game day, if my responsibility isn't followed through, and if I didn't follow through on my responsibility of game day, that is going to be highlighted and shown on that scale, that bigger picture, right? So for me personally, it kind of came a little natural, and I just kind of implemented what these coaches did that I played hard for and I loved, and I can still tell you their names and what team I played for and what position I played for them to this day. Or, you have your coaches who you didn't want to play for, and you kind of almost like, I don't even want to go there. Mm-hmm. So me personally, it kind of organically, it kind of happened. And, I had a very good mentor when I got kind of brought into my internship program, to where it was kind of funny because at first I really pushed back his nitpicky, his attention to detail, his do the little things right, the bigger things will follow through, because I kind of felt like I had such a connection with these people that I didn't need to be like that. And it honestly took me about a month to kind of grow into this mature position of a coach that I kind of got. And it was because of my owner at the time, Nick Pommier. And the dude, I think he opened up Ross Valley CrossFit 5 years ago. So 2012, even I think 2011 maybe. And he offers an awesome product of what his product of CrossFit is. And me being in that mom and pop shop and that smaller, intimate style, like I blossomed and grew so well because I just applied what these coaches who did very well versus what these coaches did horribly. And it can be tough implementing that into working with coaches and people who kind of don't have that eye for what is going on within the specifics of each class. So as a coaching director, we hold coaches summits monthly, bi-monthly. So it's, our theme for this year has been member experience. So our very first summit that we ran was all about briefing workouts, right? And if you look at Fran, right, everyone's done Fran, everybody knows what they're getting into. If you look at this workout and brief it class, go, all right, 21, 15, 9, this is going to blow your legs out. You're going to be on the ground dying. If you're not dying, you're not doing this right. The person's going to go into that workout going, so I'm just going to die? Versus, okay, 21, 15, 9. 21, that's the big set. Let's break this up. If that takes you a little bit longer in between, cool, but let's move quickly within these movements. And the way that you highlight what these athletes and what these people are going to be doing within that class in a positive light, they're going to go into that workout with a positive mentality. And I think that's what the coaches who I played so hard for really did. They said, you guys, let's stay up. Let's stay positive. You make a mistake, short memory, forget about it. You're going to have a play in 10 seconds so you can redeem yourself. So just kind of really highlighting that social intelligence of what we do as coaches. And that's really been the highlight of, our member experience from here going on out. Also, what we implement is the Ford model. And the Ford model is FORD. And if you can connect with your members on F, family, O, occupation, R, recreation, what they do outside of the gym, and D, their dreams. If you as a coach connect with one of your athletes with one of those 4 topics, whether in class, outside of class, during, before, after, right? Anytime that you have this interaction with these people, that is how you're going to connect and build that personal authority within them. And coaches great coaches will naturally already do this. And it's not that it's a wrong thing if coaches don't do this, but it's a great way for them to build that rapport within those clients. So we implemented this Ford model within all of our coaching staff. So we get 60 coaches together across all 5 of our locations. We discussed this Ford model, and it was funny because us going into it as coaching directors, we were like, okay, it'll be really cool to see who the people will naturally do this, and it'll be really cool to see the people who kind of have to fake it. And so what we did is we did a breakout session. We had 2 coaches work with, a coach work with another coach who they can't be at the same site. They can't really know them very well because we wanted to kind of develop this organically in conversation to see. And so as coaching directors, we all walked around, and afterwards when everyone left, I think we were all surprised that our coaches do that, but highlighting and giving them, hey, this is a model of 4 ways you can do this. We gave them the tools to specifically set them up for success within that class, as opposed to be more personal. What the hell does that mean, right?
Right.
So if you think about that as a coach, right, you wouldn't tell somebody, this is a squat snatch, now squat snatch. You teach them a progression. You teach them on ways they can get there. So by being that coaching director and giving them that avenue of this model of, okay, if I talk to them about their family, okay, occupation, what do you do outside of work? Recreation, what do you like to do instead of CrossFit? Giving them that model directly sets them up for success.
That's awesome. I never heard that before.
That's solid, man. And, it's I think what sticks out in my mind from an organizational standpoint for you and NC Fit as a whole is the top-down approach. You guys invest as much, if not more, in each other as coaches and staff as you do trying to bring the best out of your members and athletes. And I think that's a huge element that goes missing in the industry as a whole, where
Totally.
once you're hired, the assumption is that you can do your job at a high level all the time, all day, every day. And if you're not challenging your coaches and staff in the same manner that you challenge your members and athletes, by forcing them to stretch themselves as coaches and give them that critical feedback, then they'll always be where they're at, and your product won't evolve, and it sure as shit won't improve.
Oh yeah, man, totally.
So good on you guys for understanding the value of what you do from the top down, because what you get out of your athletes is a direct reflection of what's been put into you as a coach.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, wholeheartedly, definitely. And it's really cool to kind of be that segue and kind of lead that and lead by example. And it's funny because, now that I'm in this position of coaching coaches, like I see there's kind of like two avenues that you can see a coach in the way they run class, right? Me personally, I like to have a little bit more of an authoritative structure with a fun element is what I'll call it. But I see coaches who get to their connection based off of a friendship-based approach. And at the end of the day, me personally, I wouldn't go that route because I like to be looked to as that kind of top-down, trickle-down to our other members. I like to kind of be that, I'm a coach, as opposed to showing up and being like, hey guys, you go out and get drunk last night and have some beers while the Super Bowl was going on. And, some people might use that as their way to connect when at the end of the day, we're in a facility of health and wellness. And sure, having moderation and having an understanding that there is life outside of the gym. And sure, on a Friday night after busting your ass all week, cool. If you want to go have a drink with your buddies, but if it stays within the parameters of health, like who are you to say, what's wrong and right and wrong within that regard? But I mean, as a coach, I like to have that a little bit more, just like you said, there's that top down, trickle down, lead by example. I like to show up 10 minutes early before class. I'm on the floor, and that means I'm not on my phone. I'm on the floor saying, yo, what up, Mike? Like, how you doing, bro? Like, one of my favorite things to do is, yo, bro, are you getting bigger legs or wearing smaller shorts? Or, setting that tone from the second they walk in the gym, like, yeah, like I'm here to lead you through this class, but I'm going to build you up and I'm going to help you out along the way. And just kind of it's cool now because I kind of see two routes people go about doing that. And not one is specifically wrong or right within that parameter of that class because, hey, you have the people who are the XAA athletes who want to come in and maybe get to regionals. B, you have the person who works 9 to 5. They hate their boss. They just want to come in and get sweaty and they don't care. Or C, you have somebody who might have high blood pressure and has been told for the rest of their life they're going to be on blood pressure medication or they could possibly die, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's three types of individuals that you can personally work with.
Right.
And at the end of the day, if you need to connect with that person who's having health issues by being their friend, or if you found that to connect with them by being their coach,
right?
At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter as long as they're leaving. They improved their self, mentally, physically, personally. They improved their movement patterns. They had a great time in class. They escaped their days to where they can leave their doors and go, okay, I can go face my wife, or whatever that is,
Sure.
So
where do you guys stand as a staff and a culture on bad days? Within our organization at PHX, that's one of our mantras. There are no bad days. You are personally and professionally responsible to be your athletes and members' release. You should not be permitted to put your bad juju. You got rear-ended this morning and it really fucked up your day. Your dog died. Whatever. You could create a million storms in your own mind. So one of the philosophies that we have at PHX is there are no bad days. You are everybody else's release. We as coaches are each other's release, but that's not what the members are paying for. So whatever significance that has for you, that's you. But if you're not able to deliver a quality class, we don't want you on the floor.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? So we've created a culture where it's okay to call in that favor. Hey, I'm not with it today, and you don't even need to give the reason because it's so rare now that it's obviously a big deal, and we acknowledge that. So, you call in that favor and you say, look, you're going to be able to deliver a higher level class than I am at this point in time. Can you take my class? And it gets done. And we look out for each other as a staff. Where do you guys stand on bad days? Is it kind of like fake it till you make it and gut it out? Or do you call that, or do you phone a friend and get somebody in there that's going to deliver the product that the members are expecting?
So So I think there's actually a couple ways you can kind of go about answering that, right? So as if you look at a small affiliate, right? Let's say it's a noon class, you're the only coach there at a time running a class of 10 people. So right now you have your coaching hat on, so to speak. Well, okay, let's say you're right in the middle of the progression of a power snatch and some potential new client member walks through the doors. Are you going to look at that client member and say, hey man, I'll be with you in 5 minutes, just hang out for a sec? Lead your class through a point to where you can be like, hey, okay guys, now I want to see 10 snatches with just the bar, and then, give me a 400-meter run or whatever you needed to do to buy that time to now take your coaching hat off, put on your salesperson hat and be like, hey, right now I don't have the most time. Here's a brochure. Here's some information you can do. If you want to hang out and check out class, go ahead and do so. If not, why don't I take your number down and I can call you back? So right then and there at a small affiliate, you kind of have to put on a couple hats at some point, right? You got to have your coach's hat. You kind of need to have your salesman hat on because we are in a service-based, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, there we go. A service-based industry to where your product is offered by your coach, right? So if your coach comes in, they just got in a fight with their girlfriend and they were late to class, so they show up, throw their bag down. All right, guys, this is what we're doing. Hit a 400-meter run. I mean, right then from there, the tone of the class is already in a down. And so as what we really try to focus on as, kind of setting the tone as coaching directors is, create habits that you can find to get into the right mode on your way to gym. Sure, you might not be able to wake up an hour early, cook a good breakfast, listen to your favorite pump up song, drink 3 cups of coffee or whatever you need to do to have the energy to be that outgoing on the floor. But if you can recognize the habits that put you in a good mind frame for the second you can walk into the door, snap that switch and say, I'm coaching right now and I got to put on my coaching hat, and kind of leave the kind of the outer influences at the door and be that best coach for within that hour. That's what it really kind of comes down to. And as ways that you can teach that, you got to really highlight your habits, highlight what's going to help you set you up for success. So we actually just wrote an email back out to my head coaching director, Pat, of the habits that I personally get into before I get to class. So for me personally, I read the programming the night before. So on my way to the gym, I'm already thinking, okay, if I'm going to be running assault bike intervals with barbell, I'm at a smaller facility. How am I going to break this up if I have a class of 20 people? Mm-hmm. So when that class of 20 people shows up, I already have a game plan. I'm already seeing the next picture as opposed to, holy shit, 20 people in class, how do I do this? But that comes down to establishing my habits, knowing that the session plan and the workouts that go out are a skeleton for the stimulus ideally you want to get done within that workout. That if I show up 10 minutes early, I read the session plan the night before, and even probably in the morning before I got there, I'm already setting up what I'm going to do. If this athlete who can't go overhead today, what are they going to do instead? With this athlete who shows up 10 minutes late, how can I get them warm to do that? So that comes with understanding the session plan, understanding the stimulus of the workout for that day. So develop those habits, read the session plan in the morning before you get there. Arrive there 10 minutes early so you can set your bags down. Make sure the warm-up's written up correctly on the board, or if you specifically feel like you need to make changes to effectively coach that class, go ahead and do it. I mean, the warm-ups and the session plans are just kind of a skeleton of ways that you can warm your athletes up. If let's say we're 1 rep max front squatting in class, and I have 3 people who know what they're doing and 8 people who don't know what they're doing, I have confidence to say, okay, you 3, you know what you're doing. Grab a bar, go give me 10 with just the bar at 95 pounds. I'll come by and get you guys individually. And I'll pull the 5 aside and be like, all right, guys, this is what we got to do today. And then just kind of cover the basics and get them to a point to where I feel comfortable to let them go. So that really comes down to having the confidence, building those habits. And it happens, man. The days that, I give so much of my classes that when I get home, I don't want to talk to anybody because I talk the whole class. And to really harvest that in your coaches it's a personality. It's leading by example. And there's definitely times when I have to give that feedback of, hey Mike, I watched your class. This is not specifically any coach I work with, but hey Mike, I watched your class and it seemed like you were a little off today. what's going on? How can I help you? As opposed to, hey, bro, you normally give an A effort at class. That was a fucking D. What the hell's going on? So to really kind of get their aspect and kind of be like, hey, man, why were you kind of off your game today for your class? Oh, well, I was 10 minutes late, so I didn't have a chance to look at the session plan. So to kind of get back to, okay, well, let's try to see the bigger picture here. Let's try to see how can we make this easier for you to where you have less factors that can go wrong on your way to the gym. So when you do get to the gym, that coaching hat is on and it's ready to go. And, just being able to have that personal and positional authority, there it is once again, to connect with that coach and be like, hey, man, waking up late is not conducive to you being in a good mood when you get here. Why don't you wake up, try going to bed earlier, wake up an hour early, feed yourself, watch a funny movie, listen to a funny stand-up comedy, or do whatever you need to do. Listen to your pump-up song, drink 4 cups of coffee, find out specifically what that is for you to help you give that A performance as a coach, and just highlight that and stick to that and develop those habits. And, and I have bad days too, man. Like
we all do.
You're right. There's been times when I've taught a class and gone, shit, that did not go the way I intended it to. But I guess I tell you what, I'm going to learn from that. And that next class is going to be way better. And I'm not going to make those same mistakes.
Right.
So, and just leading from the top down, just like you said, that's what it comes down to, man.
That's awesome. And it's been such a pleasure for me from the outside looking in from way far away, just seeing what you're doing on social media and our conversations back and forth every couple of months, and just seeing your progression as a coach and seeing your position grow within the NC Fit organization. It's been huge, man. I love the fact that there's coaches like you and there's a system out there that's building coaches like you, because that gives me hope for the industry at large, knowing that people are being taken care of and that it is coming from the top down, and that you take pride in what you do and you're taking deliberate steps to become a master of your craft. So I want to leave you with this though. I want to ask you 2 questions, and you can answer them on any level: mental, physical, spiritual, or all 3 if you want. But we talk about creating habits, right? So I want to know what you do each and every day. What's part of your routine that feeds you, that gets the motivation going, puts you in the mode, and allows you to get your day started and be the most effective coach that you're able to be? And then the second part of that is what is it that's part of your daily routine that fuels you and keeps that motivation going and gives you that rollover, that carryover into the next day?
So I would say personally for my habits to kind of get into the mode of coaching, me personally, I'm a big believer in positive attitude and positive thought. I myself actually listen to a lot of Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer is a man who's now deceased. He was released a lot of things based off of, personal growth and positive thought and law of attraction, and, focus on positive things, positive outcomes will happen. And in all honesty, man, so I have about a 40-minute commute to work. So that actually that's my personal time to either put on music that gets me in a positive attitude, which is actually kind of funny. I actually will make fun of myself all the time in class because I love to listen to like Earth, Wind and Fire, or I'll love to listen to like some Mariah Carey on Monday. And I found what gets me in a positive mood so I can approach that class in a positive manner. Sure, I might have not gotten any sleep because of my roommates being up the night before, or, maybe my training for me personally is not going well, or whatever. Maybe there's outside factors that are affecting me as an individual. I try to look at the positives in my life, and listening to these positive, uplifting type podcasts and these shows and these YouTube channels and this positive light and law of attraction type things, because I personally have gone through that in my tough days, that I know if I listen to that on a good day, it's going to make my good day great. Mm-hmm. And that just comes from experience, man. And so for me to kind of get in my habits and develop what's going to put me in a good mood, like I said, my 6 a.m. class, I have a 40-minute commute. So on the drive there, I'm listening to Wayne Dyer talk about positives and attracting positive things into your life. So when I take my headphones out, or I, turn my truck off and now I put my coaching hat on and here I am at the gym, I've left my car in a positive space. So when I walk into the gym, I'm going to try to convey and move that positive energy within my class. I'm not going to stand up there and talk about law of attraction because that doesn't appeal to everybody. That appeals to me personally because it helped me through a tough time. So I get in that headspace of positive attitude, positive mind, positive music, positive thought to highlight that's how my class is going to be, and that's how I get into my mood. Sure, that might not be how you get into your mode, right? Maybe you might throw on, some heavy rock or some hardcore rap to kind of like get you amped and fired up to where you kind of leave that situation of your personal time getting to the gym to where you've fulfilled you personally so you can give to others. I think that has got to be the biggest habit, being able to recognize what's going to fulfill you in a positive light or whatever that is to fire you up for that day, that class. That's going to be on you to really discover what's going to get you in that mind frame. And
what keeps you rolling, man?
And getting to what keeps me rolling is at the end of the day, man, when I try to stop class 2 minutes early so I can personally walk around and be like, hey, Shalini, great job on those kettlebell swings. You were swinging that 15-pounder a month ago. Now look at you handling that 26. And just connecting. And, I want that person's hour to be the best hour of their day to where, me as a coaching director, I get feedback on my other coaches, and I get feedback of, oh my gosh, I love taking so-and-so's class because it's so awesome. Me personally as a coach, I go, damn it, I want that to be me. I want them to tell me I'm their favorite coach, but then I'll take a step back and be like, well, that means we're doing something right if they love other coaches as well.
That's right.
So it's incredible, man, and just being able to connect and, getting back to what I talked to, I love being that segue and that introduction to what this very intimidating lifestyle, this very intimidating style of training is. I love to be that segue and show them like, hey, if all you can do is front squat with 45 pounds in an open bar, do that. You're going to get better by doing that, by challenging yourself, by growing. If you're spending the money to be here, you should walk away and say, hey, man, I really got something out of what I'm putting my effort, my money, and my mental space into. And if they can do that and walk out of class and go face their day, that's what's going to keep me coming back. It's going to help them grow as a person. And at the end of the day, as a coach, you grow too because of that.
Well done, man.
That's awesome, man. And, I'm looking at the pictures behind you, good vibes only, things like that. And it really comes through, brother. So, we'll have to put pictures up of that. That's freaking awesome, dude. Cool. Where can the community go and support you and everything that you have going, whether it's personally and business? Where can they go support you directly?
Yeah, totally, guys. So I have an Instagram account, and it's actually pretty funny because it's not very coaching biased. It's not really fitness biased. It's just me being me and having fun. Like you'll see on my page, like I'll have stories of where I'll have clients come in on a 400-meter run, and there's actually a back door they'll come in on, and I'll stand on the backside and scare the hell out of them as they come in. But yeah, so if you want to reach out, it's funny. My Instagram handle is YABOYKOR, your boy Core, because I'm your boy. And then also, if you guys have any questions, email me, kory@nc.fit. I'm more than happy to let you guys in on what makes us coaching directors so special and kind of ammo I can lead any person into how to develop their coaches, how to develop as a coach. If I can't answer the questions, I definitely have resources at my disposal that I can access and get back to. And I just, at the end of the day, love the community. I would absolutely love to reach out and work with other coaches, and just like you're saying, that's what keeps me coming back for more, and just helping people within that community. So, hit me up on Instagram, guys, YABOYKOR, and Kory@nc.fit. I'm happy to answer any questions and give my time, and just let me know how I can help you guys out.
That's beautiful, man. Hey, dude, I know you got a busy schedule coming up, and I know they're about to release 17.1 in a couple of hours. So,
what do you think, Durs? What are they going to do?
I'm calling an open close workout. I'm calling deadlifts and toes to bar.
Oh, midline.
Yeah, midline and grip gone. That's what I'm calling.
Ooh, I'm thinking it's going to be something inclusive. It's going to be a motor workout. I'm thinking 15 to 10 minutes. I probably am not. We're probably not going to see this movement. I think hang power snatches and burpees.
Ooh, spicy. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Dude, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and coming through for us and being on the show. You've been at the forefront of my mind for a couple of months now. We were just waiting for the right time to plug you in. And you've added tremendous value to Feed Me, Fuel Me, and we're glad to have you. And we'll definitely be doing a follow-up later on to see where you're at next in your progression, because we definitely, from our discussion today, this isn't that you're still on the way. You're not even close to arriving yet. So we're excited to see where the path leads you. So thank you for being a part of our journey.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we're humbled to have you a part of ours. And for everybody listening, make sure you get out there, follow your boy Kory on Instagram, and check out everything that he's got going on. He lives a high level lifestyle in every aspect of life, not just fitness. So check him out, support everything that he has going on. Check out what NC Fit has to offer. They're an amazing organization from the top down. As always, thanks for exposing the elephant with us, and we look forward to next time. So feed me, fuel me, guys.
That'll do it for today's episode with our special guest, Kory Cook. If you want to check out everything Kory has going over there at NC Fit, be sure to go look at the full show notes on feedmefuelme.com. Also, be sure to connect with us on social media, including Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, and Twitter at feedmefuelme. We would love to hear from each and every one of you. We're excited to announce the Feed Me Fuel Me Summit on July 10th, 2017 in Sedona, Arizona. Our keynote speaker will be Forrest Lustos. If you haven't had a chance to hear Forrest's story yet, be sure to check out his episode, number 19, Mastering the Superficial and Becoming Exceptional. It's guaranteed to fire you up and make you take action. We've released event details on the website and will continue to update it as the event gets closer. Be sure to click on the link 2017 Summit on feedmefuelme.com, register, get your ticket, and we will see you there. If you found this episode inspiring in any way, please rate, comment, share, and subscribe so we can continue on this journey together. Also, be sure to share it with your friends and family on social media, including Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, and Twitter, or any other social platforms that you use. We really appreciate you spending your time with us today and allowing us to join you on your journey. We would love to hear your feedback on this episode, as well as guests and topics for future episodes. To end this episode, we would love to leave you with a quote by James Him Mitchell. Coaching is about creating an action plan that moves you forward from where you are to where you want to be. Thank you again for joining us, and we will catch you on the next episode.